Okay. All right. It looks like we have people coming into the room. Come on in and join us. We're glad to have you here. And if you will, while you're joining us, hello and welcome to everyone who is joining Power to Fly today. We're so thankful to have you here. Do me a favor, drop your name in the chat there for us and where you're joining us from. We'd love to hear a lot about you and know who's in the room with us today. So thank you so much for being here. I don't want us to hold up any time. We have a amazing guest with us today, and we want to make sure we get all of the time in with her. So hello and welcome, everyone. I'll give us just a moment just to kind of I see some people coming in. We got Chris. Hey, Chris. Emma. Hey, Emma. Hey, Shannon. Thanks so much. Samuel, for being here. That is so amazing. We're going to learn some great information today in this chat and learn. So who am I? Well, welcome to the new Power to Fly Chat and Learn. I am Michonne Montgomery, and I am very excited to be moderating today's conversation with our amazing guest, Elizabeth Gish. And our topic for today's Chat and Learn is now is the time to propose a career reentry program. I'm so excited for this conversation today. What we know right now is that it's an excellent time for visionary recruiting and HR leaders to propose career reentry programs. And today you're going to hear about the latest innovations and best practices associated with reentry programming. And before we get started, I'd like to go through some really simple housekeeping rules so we can make sure that this is a safe and comfortable space for everyone. So you should see some rules pop up. Am I good? Everyone can see my screen? Okay, sounds perfect. So first of all, we encourage you to participate. This is an open space, so use that chat just like everyone is saying hello. I'm seeing Amy, Aisha, hello. Use the chat. Turn on your cameras if you want us to see your beautiful faces. Drop your name and talk to us in the chat. Put your questions in there. And if you don't feel comfortable sharing your questions out loud with the group or in the chat, by all means, send a private note, but we're eager to hear from you. Now, I want to send a note to you. This conversation is being recorded. So if you turn on those cameras, we're going to see you. And whoever sees this recording for time to come will see you too. So that's okay. But go ahead. And if you want to join us, just know that the recording is happening. And 2 to 4 business days after the chat, you'll receive a rewatch email with a link to the recording. So please note, again, if your camera's on and you come out of mute or anything like that, you're going to show up on that live recording. That's okay, though. It might be your debut, right? Next, feel free to share any questions you may have in that chat box. And we kind of hit that up. But just again, write in that chat. Let us know what you're thinking, and we can get these questions to Elizabeth. And if you want to remain anonymous, shoot those questions in a DM, and we'll ask them on your behalf. And lastly, make sure to keep up with us on social media. We're at Power to Fly. That's our handle. Subscribe, join, like, follow, whatever the kids are doing nowadays, trending, do it. Click they got thumbs up, hearts, all kinds of stuff. Give us some of that love. So now, without a further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our speaker today, Elizabeth Gish. And I'm going to throw a profile up here. Look at this. Now, Elizabeth, you all are in for a beautiful treat. Elizabeth is a career relauncher with over 15 years of experience designing, implementing, and managing programs that drive impact at the intersection of diversity and inclusion, talent acquisition, corporate social responsibility, and employee engagement. As the managing director at iRelaunch, Elizabeth plays a key role in the company's pioneering work, advising progressive and innovative employers on career reentry program options to leverage diverse talent pools. After a 15-year career gap, she relaunched at Oracle without the support of a formal career reentry program. And so what she did was, with a focus on the company's diversity and inclusion goals, she drew on her personal relaunch experience to define, pilot, and expand Oracle's career relaunch program. Elizabeth, dope. I mean, just amazing work you've done this far. Thank you for joining us. Anything else you want to add to that profile, to that beautiful bio, before we jump into the questions?
Well, first of all, Michonne, thank you so much for having me. I've been really looking forward to this event for a couple of weeks now, and so excited to share my knowledge with this amazing group, the audience here of HR visionary leaders and other leaders. So just starting a little bit, I do have this sort of unique perspective, being that I had taken a 15-year career break to raise my boys, did some strategic volunteering while I was doing that, and all of that sort of set the stage, and I was able to leverage it to get into corporate social responsibility at Oracle. So I relaunched actually there without the support of a career reentry program. So I know firsthand what it's like to relaunch without specialized onboarding and sort of, I like to call it a soft landing.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, getting the buy-in from leaders there, HR, talent acquisition, et cetera, which I'll touch on later, was able to design and launch Oracle Career Relaunch. So that unique perspective of being a relauncher as well as being a designer for a corporate program really gives me the opportunity to kind of talk with some authority. And I'm so excited to be able to share all this knowledge with everybody today.
I love the hashtag talk with authority. I'm keeping that one, right? Right. I love that. Hashtag talk with authority. That's great. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for being here with us. I just want to share before we jump into the questions and get the conversation going. Everyone submitted some great questions in advance. I'm going to use some of those. But before we jump in there, keep in mind that this chat is eligible for SHRM credits. So if you're looking to earn credits for this conversation, please save the ID that's displayed on the slide. You see it there in the corner. It is SHRMID 23-ATXDZ. Prior military says Alpha Tango X-Ray Delta Zulu, right? So please make sure you save that if you're looking for credit. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And Elizabeth, let's jump into this conversation. We have a good chat going on, a good group of people in here. So let's give them some good questions. So I read through what we were going to be talking about today. And honestly, I was like, what is a relauncher? So let's start right there with the basic question. Who is a relauncher? What is a relauncher? And define the typical profile of a relauncher candidate.
Sure, absolutely. So the definition of a relauncher is actually rather broad. The biggest subset is those professionals who have taken a break from the workforce for childcare reasons. We're also seeing actually men in this category as well. Professionals that have taken a break for elder care, for their own health issues. Perhaps they're a traveling spouse, they're unretiring, they're a military spouse, or they themselves have been in the military service, and which I'd like to point out right now that Michon is a relauncher, which we just talked about when we got started here today, having spent 20 years in the Air Force. So really, it's a special time to be talking with you as well. The breaks ranging anywhere from 2 to 20 years. And this is a mid-career break, just to keep that in mind. And the key takeaway for everybody here is that the one commonality, the common denominator of relaunchers is that they did not leave the workforce because of poor performance. It was because of external factors. And I also like to point out that if they were high performers before they took their career break, just because they took that break doesn't mean they've lost that potential of being a high performer. Some of the common traits of relaunchers, and I'm going to put myself and Michon in that category, because as I said, we're both relaunchers. We're educated. We have mature perspectives. We're typically at a stable life stage and we have prior work experience. We're energetic, we're enthusiastic, we are of the growth mindset. And something I just wanted to add on, this is the time to be looking at this talent pool. You have an unusual opportunity to build a brand new onboarding program for brand new talent. And many of the questions that have been asked, as Michon was referring to, I'm going to be able to address them throughout, like, what are these programs? What are their success rate? How do you attract this talent? And why is this talent pool so important to pay attention to? So.
Wow. Let's just start with out the gate, right? I mean, in the chat, let me know, like, that was mind-boggling to me. I did just find out that I'm a relauncher. And so hashtag Michon's a relauncher. If you're a relauncher too, drop that in the chat for us. But this is really unique. And what a great conversation to have, especially for me personally today, because I didn't even know that this was a space that I lived in. But what I really loved, hashtag growth mindset, and the things that make up a relauncher, right? They didn't necessarily step away because their performance was poor, but it was just making a change for whatever reason in life that was. I absolutely love it. So let's talk about the buy-in. How are relaunch programs usually received by companies? And do you tend to encounter some resistance from management?
Yeah, absolutely. To address that, it's a really good question, and I'd like to say it depends on who's driving the effort and whether or not a company is going to be open to listening to this initiative, the proposal of initiative. If it's a senior executive or perhaps a member of the leadership team, it's most likely that they are motivated because of a personal connection to a relauncher. Perhaps it's a friend or it's a spouse. And they understand inherently, personally, the value of this talent. The senior executive can take on a role of executive sponsor or champion. And this role is essential, as they can essentially evangelize about the concept and run interference during the program launch. They often pilot this program in their line of business. If the driver of the effort is someone not in the leadership team, as I was not on the leadership team when I was at Oracle, it was critical as a first step that I secured a champion. So I networked and I found an executive whose wife is a relauncher. And he had offered to pilot the program in his line of business, which, as I said, it's not uncommon for this champion to do that. And I tell you, because of his involvement, it just had a huge impact on the success of the pilot program.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Find your champion and go to work, right? That's amazing. What's your go-to strategy for getting leadership's buy-in? And you did that. You said, I'm going to find the champion, but could you share is there case studies or resources that might help us back up the importance of launching a program like this?
Absolutely. So starting by addressing the challenge. So is your company, is it suffering from a talent shortage, for one, or is recruiting and retaining diverse talent at the mid-career level a challenge? Or maybe it's employee retention, that you're losing employees sort of at a rapid pace. Once you've identified this, you have that opportunity to introduce this sort of, we call it sort of a non-traditional recruiting and retention model. So target your talent acquisition, your HR, and your DEI leaders. Many times these three areas work together and they share the same commitment to supporting an in-house career reentry program. And these leaders, they will become part of your stakeholder group, and included in that group also are the program manager, which we'll talk about in a minute and how important their role is, the recruiters, right? And as well as the hiring managers and the day-to-day managers who are involved in all of the activities each day with the relauncher.
I love that. You said you want to jump into like the program managers, and I think we'll get into some of that in just a bit. But I absolutely love. I'm loving the direction, and I kind of want to know, because I'm in the DEI lane, right? I'm a global DEIB strategist here at Power to Fly. So could you elaborate on how that list you gave us here, the HR person, the DEI person, how does a relaunch program, how can that help a company achieve their diversity goals?
Absolutely. So let me provide some statistics for you. First of all, the statistics that we have gathered over the years are from our return to work conferences. We have led 32 conferences over the last 15 years, and they actually take place in May and October. For 2022, we collected some data which shows that 86% of our the talent pool is made up of females. As we said, I told you that a lot of it are those women that have taken breaks to care for their children. And so right there, you've got the gender diversity. And then we also at iRelaunch, we have a director of diversity who works with partnerships and organizations. One that comes to mind is within the African Culture and Network. network, and that's MoCA Moms. So we work a lot with MoCA Moms in promoting and working with them on reaching their audience and setting up these programs. So it's gender diversity and beyond that in different types of diversity. Some of the other things, Michon, that I think might be helpful for your audience to understand, some other data that we're getting from these conferences, which are attended by relaunchers, over 13,000 over the last 15 years. It's, as I said, primarily female. And I think I touched on before that we've seen actually an increase in men, 7 to 14% increase in men, which is a pretty big jump. Primarily well-educated, 97% hold a bachelor's degree. Wow, right? 62% have a graduate degree. Again, mid-career pool. 59% have at least 10 years of experience prior to their break. 83% at least 5 years. So while these programs are similar to your out of college internship programs, the key difference is these are working professionals. They have had experience, and they're actually serious about returning to work, and it's full-time. 94% are interested in full-time. So they're not going back to work looking for gig work. They are actually really looking in putting themselves out there to go back and to add value to a team, to a company, and to have purpose.
I'm blown away. I want to hashtag everything you're saying. I just want to put because I think like we're not having, and this is my first time having this conversation and hearing this terminology. And as someone who, I'm going to use the word transition, they told us not to say retired anymore. So as a person who transitioned recently, I would have loved to know as I walked into some of that scary walk of leaving one space, but knowing I wasn't done yet. Right. I was still, under 40. I have got all these degrees to do something with. And I didn't understand that there were other people who were in that same category and boat with the same mindset. So that it feels really good. I don't feel as alone in the world right now, Elizabeth. So thank you for closing that gap for me just a bit. Now, what should we include or not include in job descriptions to make sure they're inclusive in attracting those reentry candidates?
Really good question again. And this is something we work with our clients. Just thought I would put in, we've worked with over 250 clients over the years and setting up these programs. And so what we find and what we advise our clients with is to not be really specific with the roles, but the requirements. First off, you clearly need to identify in the title that it's part of that role is part of the returner program. And what this does is it helps with the recruiter filtering and provide language from your landing page. So we're going to talk about, how important it is to create a name, create a brand, and a landing page so the relaunchers can find you. So that communication and the messaging will translate into your job description. You'll include on that sort of the mission of the program. Example, advances our diversity, equity, and inclusion strategy. And the program details are important in that job description, such as the model, which we'll touch on. Is it a direct hire? Is it a returnship? And the length of the programming, the application deadline, location, really, really important right now. Is it remote or is it in person? Again, duties and requirements, keeping them less specific. And this may resonate with you that relaunchers and women in general, we have a tendency to opt out of applying for things if we can't check off everything on that list. Ooh, right?
Sing it and say it again.
So if we have 9 of the 10 checked off. We're like, nope, don't have that last one. Whereas sometimes men are like, oh, I got 5 of the 10. I'm fine. I'm going to go ahead and apply to this. So just keeping those more vague will be helpful. Lastly, you can include a preferences section we talk about, and these are considered your like to haves versus sort of your must haves.
So first, let's go, Liz. Okay, I get too excited, y'all. Hashtag language in the landing. Let's go there, and let's not forget that. But also, this is really real. And I think, Elizabeth, I just want to sit here for a second. We do not have to have every qualification to apply, right? Go ahead and put it out there, especially if you're just transitioning. You may not have all of the 10 blocks, but you still got to put yourself out there. And I love the stats on it. And that's the same in politics even. Women will wait to apply or put in their name and become a candidate versus men who say, I'm just going to go ahead and apply. So this is encouraging for all walks, right? To say, hey, put your name out there and give it a shot. I absolutely love that. I want to jump to a question that came in the chat, Elizabeth, before we keep moving, if that's okay. Absolutely. And Aisha asked us, what are keywords to put in the role right in the beginning?
Absolutely. So as I touched on right in the beginning, again, the title. So is this a returnship? If it's a returnship, put it in there. And making sure that, you know, a lot of what I just said, you know, is it a remote position, right? Because if it is remote, or if it's in person, shall I say, and somebody is, you know, from 2 states over, they're not going to apply. And I say a lot of this to protect the inbox of the recruiters, right? That they're not getting flooded. And using the word returnship is important. If you put in perhaps the word internship, you're going to get flooded with interns that do not meet the qualifications of your program. So the more detail you can put in about the design and the parameters will help with the filtering process. Sometimes, and we're going to get into this, we will employers will have relaunchers apply to a specific role or to a specific line of business. So that will be in there in that job description. So something to keep in mind. And just wanted to refer to that question, that I'll get into that a little bit more when we talk about like the best models.
I love that. And I said, thank you. That helps so much. So thanks so much, Elizabeth. I want to kind of say, well, we're in job descriptions. Let's kind of stick with sourcing just for a minute. How can organizations best attract and engage those relaunchers? So we got the job description down, but how do I get people to even want to come and talk to me, right? And deal with me?
Yeah. First off, going back to creating a name. The identity of this program, Oracle Career Relaunch was one name. There are many others. You all can just Google a list of career reentry programs, and you'll see a host of different types of names. So in that name, have it speak to what this program is. And the landing page is very important. Your messaging on that landing page, putting on your landing page success stories. And okay, your question is, well, how do I find a success story if I don't have a pilot yet? Reach out to your community, maybe your women leadership ERG. Just put out a message. Hey, has anybody relaunched at our company? I guarantee you're going to have a flood of emails. This talent pool, they want to give back. They want to pay it forward. I did this when I was at Oracle, and I had so many people that want, I'll be a mentor. I really, you know, how can I get involved? And so it's sort of the sense of empowerment of bringing those people back into the workforce, similar to the way you got back in. So, and then also finding somebody that has a cool success story, put them up on your landing page. And again, keeping that consistency of the communication and the messaging and the branding. Promoting internally through employee referrals. It's a huge source for candidates. Also, maybe talking to managers about regrettable losses. Who left for an extended amount of time and that you were really sorry to see them leave and you'd like to bring them back. right? Part of our consulting practice includes access to our job board. We have a social media campaign and dedicated email to our community, which our community is over 100,000 plus relaunchers, as well as announcements in our weekly newsletters. As I mentioned earlier, we host conferences twice a year, May and October. 2 days of those conferences are 3-day conferences. 2 days of those conferences are content focused. And then that last day is a career fair for our sponsors. And then we also host dedicated recruiting events for clients. So we have as many opportunities as the need is there for our employers to be able to help them find this sort of what we call hidden talent.
I absolutely, this is just great. And I hope you all are gaining something from this, because this is such great information and knowledge about how to get these relaunchers to get to you. And then once a company says, okay, we're going to do a relaunch program, we want to target that. How do they go about communicating the launch of a relaunch program? Like, how do they go about sharing that with the world? So we know it's happening. We're going to go ahead and move forward. But then what?
Right, exactly. So that's part of the promotion of it. You can, as I said, internally, you'll go out to your employee resource groups. You'll leverage your stakeholders, your executive sponsor, your ambassadors, anybody that's relaunched there. Hey, get out on your social media. So you can push it out with your stakeholders and their social media. Obviously, with your own marketing team, you'll come up with your own campaign. iRelaunch, that's what we do, as I'd mentioned before, with our promotional. We've got a 3-part promotional package that we do. And yeah, I think the social, all of those things that I just mentioned prior to.
I love that. I love the social media thing, right? Like social media, and share that with a friend. So we can push it out, but then to have your organization, your groups go out and push that out as well. I think that's really great. And it's great for this time. I know that's personally what Michonne did. I went out there and talked to friends and looked at, social media. That's how I ended up being exactly where I'm at now. Is I asked people, and there were programs and things available for me to be a part of. And I thought that was so great. So social media, push it. I love that.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about,
and also, Michonne, I just wanted to add that,
please.
Everything come back to that landing page, right? Everything comes back to that landing page where all of your important critical information is. So as much information on there for the relauncher, the more information you have on there, the better.
I love that. And I can attest to that. And those share in the chat if you'd like. I felt like when I was out searching, it can get like confusing, where to go, who to talk to. And so the landing page was the first introduction in a way, right, to a company, and then understanding if I was a fit there, because my world was a little different. I was transitioning. So a new experience, but I had experience as well. Which brings me to my next question, Elizabeth, which I think is great. Let's talk about onboarding for the relauncher. So could you share some best practices on what the onboarding process should look like for a relauncher candidate?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So onboarding, the way when we talk to our clients, the onboarding is leveraging what you already have in place, right? Don't recreate the wheel. So essentially enhance your current onboarding. You can do this by including in their guest speakers, lunch and learns, time with mentors. So the mentors that I had spoken about, perhaps they've relaunched as well. And making sure that those people that are perhaps that have a touch, that will be touching these relaunchers, have opted in, and that they understand this talent pool and they want to be involved. We actually provide a training, part of our process, our consulting is providing a training for these stakeholders, so these recruiters and these hiring managers, and we educate them on the relauncher, just as I had spoken to the audience here about what is a relauncher, and advising them on what questions to ask during the recruiting. And I think one of the other questions that came in is like, how does this affect your hiring process? And we can talk about that after. But getting back to the onboarding, having an opportunity for the relaunchers to step out of their day-to-day, because they're coming in to do a job, and bringing them together with those others that are relaunching with them, and to learn about and to feel a sense of belonging, and this sort of soft landing, introduction to the company and introduction to getting back to work.
Let's go there for a second. I'm going to jump away from kind of our questions and just kind of open it up for you and I for just a moment. And what you just said was kind of struck with me, and I'd love to know if it struck with anyone else, because you said, create a space where relaunchers feel comfortable and like they're a part of something. Now, Elizabeth, does that tie into, and I'll speak personally, and then we can kind of see where that goes. But I left the company and I say company, the military, where it was very, there was a lot of camaraderie, there was a lot of group work, there was a lot of teamwork and things like that. And when I went out and sought the next business, I wanted to make sure that I was going to be in that same kind of space, right? And the onboarding process was a huge part of that, whether I felt comfortable or not. So what are your thoughts there? Like, do you think, and I know we kind of said open it up, but what does that bring to mind for you about the relauncher and what they're looking for when they go out and they're interviewing and things like that?
Yeah, no, it's so well timed. Just a really great question. And having your personal experience with it, I think is of great value to the audience here. So the way I'd like to answer that is to start off with the returnships and what they provide, because it really speaks to exactly what you're talking about. So 80% of career reentry programs are returnships. So these are paid opportunities similar to internships for career reentry, but this is mid-career professionals, right? So 80% of the programs are these returnships. And when we work with clients and talk about, setting up a pilot program, typically smallish, 5 to 7 relaunchers, and creating a defined cohort. So when I speak about a defined cohort, I'm sure that'll resonate with you, Michon, because that is that group, that is that bonding where you all start together on day one. You see each other. You're like, I see you, I get you. We're nervous. We have imposter syndrome. Do we belong here? Are we gonna meet expectations? Like all those similar experiences. And most importantly, you're in a safe space. Right. Yes. You're in that cohort of a safe space where you can share your journey, right? Maybe the reasons for your career break are different, but it doesn't matter once you get in there, right? It really doesn't matter. What does matter is where you go with that. And you support each other. We've worked with clients before where they'll have one member of the cohort that is incredibly strategic in navigating and figuring out. And you were talking earlier about acronyms, like, hey group, I learned about all these acronyms that and here. And so they share knowledge as they're all learning, and they don't feel uncomfortable asking dumb questions because they're all learning at the same time. So having that feeling of belonging in safety within that defined cohort is really powerful and empowering.
I think this is genius. It's reminiscent of like even basic training. You find your team, you grow together in that way. And I love that you hit on the imposter syndrome, because that's huge, right? When you're stepping back into a career and you're starting over in a sense, and to do it in a group setting, like, I think that's genius. I think that's great. And I love that it creates a space of safety. right? Psychological safety, and you feel like I'm not doing this alone. That's so beautiful. Wow, this is good stuff. I hope, and I hope you all are seeing in the chat, Shannon is dropping in golden nuggets for us with guides and all kinds of stuff. Every time Elizabeth has one of the hashtags that are great, she's dropping a nugget into the chat. So please take a look at the documents that are being shared. Now, in terms, Elizabeth, let's kind of open this up to some of the challenges with relaunch programs in terms of skill gaps.
Yeah.
What are some of the impediments iRelaunch has faced while helping place career relaunchers back into the workforce?
Yeah, no, that's actually a good question. And, we don't really view these as impediments, but as mentioned before, well, I wanted to let me touch on some of the concerns that employers have, and then how we address those. So one of the biggest ones is technological obsolescence, which we actually at iRelaunch view as a temporary challenge. We know that these programs, they're very competitive, and that the applicants have started upskilling. That's one of the commonalities of relaunchers. They have made a very conscious and intentional decision to go back to work. It takes courage to get back there, so they don't take this decision lightly. So they've done a ton of upskilling. They've done their networking, and research. They've watched YouTube. They understand your company strategy and the mission. So all of this reskilling that they've done on their own, the more of that that they've done, those are the ones that are going to rise to the top. So there are situations which we run into where a relauncher perhaps hasn't taken enough time to do the forethought about, okay, am I choosing the right company to be going to? And so that is one of the challenges that an employer might face. And I just want to point out that step of figuring out, this is the job I want to be applying to. I have done all the homework. I've done all the research. That step, it's foundational. And all the other decisions that the relauncher makes emanate from them, including, as I said, the reskilling and the upskilling, the credentialing, taking place MIT classes, General Assembly. And then if technical opportunities, set into place, repetition. So we advise the relaunchers through our coaching, through our return to work conferences, and set them up for success, and the how to best prepare yourself. So we're right at the front of that. And so, as I said, we don't really see these impediments, but that's something that an employer may view as one.
I absolutely love that. And we got some questions from the audience around this topic. This seemed to kind of spin something up, because I think there's a lot of thoughts around coming back into the workforce and being prepared to receive people who are coming back into the workforce. And this question, we kind of hit on it a bit, but I still want to ask it. And if there's more to elaborate on, by all means, Elizabeth, but I think you kind of hit on it with the technology. But the question was speaking to modernization as a whole. And what the person asked was, what changes can companies implement to support relaunchers in topics such as the modernization of the workplace? So it sounds like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. And something I'd like to point out is, if we were going to talk about technology, the basis of technology and sort of the analysis software that, speaking specifically about technology here, that is all the same as it was 10 years ago. And what has changed is any of the changes can be learned. So the basic foundation is there, and any sort of upskilling can be learned. And what we have seen with our relaunchers who have gone into technology, they have come back and said the problems are still the same, right? The issues are the same, the problems are the same. What may have changed is the platforms on how to solve these problems, and all that can be learned. So speaking to this question specifically with this this audience member is have during that soft landing, during that programming, that 12, which I'd like to talk about in a minute about best practices for models, you know, that 12 to 16 weeks of customized onboarding, have some upskilling going on during that time. Also, your mentors can play critical roles in this, in advising them on LinkedIn learning, you know, different opportunities for them to spend time digging deep into what are the platforms that you work at your company, you know, that are specific to your company. I just want to say this talent pool is so eager to learn and to perform that they will take it upon themselves to do that work. And I think you'll see a pretty steep learning curve.
I love that. Absolutely love that. And I want to make sure we get to the models too, because I think that's hugely important. I have one more question kind of surrounding this same time. I'll tell you, they got excited about this part right here, Elizabeth. The question is, do you see self-paced online training in work-ready competencies as a useful part of returnship programs? And so the example was, let's say, a refresher course in technical skills necessary for the job. Should the companies be investing in this stuff? And we know the people will, but what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Any sort of opportunity for self-paced learning for the relauncher pool specifically will be hugely valuable. And also recognizing that you will see on their LinkedIn resumes, on their LinkedIn profiles, their resumes, any additional upskilling that they have done. I mentioned earlier, MIT courses, General Assembly, you know, any certifications. So all of these will provide them an opportunity, as well as the recruiter, to talk about, rather than talking about, wow, you took a 20-year career break, or you know, and going that route, to say, oh, I see you've done this, and you know, and we coach our relaunchers that say, well, I actually haven't used that platform, but this is what I have used, and I think that there's some similarity. So providing them that opportunity to talk about what they know, and being able to bridge that and connect that with the technology that you have at your company.
That is genius. And I love the idea of, I love it, Elizabeth. I love the idea, like, it's been 20 years, but you have knowledge. So what do we do to bridge the gap for you? Because it's not about not having knowledge, but let's connect what you know to what is in existence today, and then fill in the gaps with the technicals and the trainings and the certs and the things like that. This is great. This is amazing.
Yeah, Michonne, I wanted to point out one other thing. This was something I spoke about a lot when I was building the program at Oracle. You know, it's really important to remember, you know, we all talk about hard skills and soft skills, right? So the hard skills are everything that we're kind of talking about right now. However, it's with those soft skills that your relaunchers are bringing with them. They understand how to negotiate. They understand how to work in multi-generational teams. They have this mature perspective. They know how to network, and if they don't have the answer, they know how to get that answer. And if they don't know, they ask somebody. And all of this has been honed, all these soft skills have been honed over time, that somebody that is younger hasn't had the opportunity. It's not because they didn't want to, they just haven't had the opportunity because they haven't lived long enough. We've lived longer. So we've had the opportunity to hone in on those skills. Those hard skills, we can learn them.
Yes.
We can learn them. It's the soft skills you can't learn.
Oh, come on, HR people in the room, those soft skills. And you know, one of the things, see, I get to talking now, Elizabeth, one of the things I love the idea of utilizing lived experience as part of your, I'm even like, put that down, tell people you have lived experience that some people you won't be able to bring to the table, right? This is a beautiful skill to have, life in and of itself, right? I absolutely love it. I want to give you two kudos here that are happening. There was on the LinkedIn chat, Cummins, it says Cummins also participates in a return to work scheme It was launched in 2015 in conjunction with iRelaunch in a fantastic program. So listen, she said hashtag talk with authority, and then there's confirmation in the chat, you all. And someone else said, it's very motivating right now, the words you're saying, and that bridging the gap is key. So HM can see the potential of their learning capabilities. I absolutely love this. Now let's use a few minutes to talk about models. Elizabeth.
Sure. I just did want to, I wanted to go back to the common story. So just really quickly, with respect to technology and engineering, we actually have a partnership with the Society of Women Engineers, which is the career. It's a STEM reentry task force that we work with employers who are specifically interested in hiring relaunchers in the engineering and technology space. Beautiful. And it's a fantastic partnership. It's been going on for 7 years. There have been 36 members that have gone through it, and it's a very high percentage of conversion rate as well. So just kind of wanted to mention that for companies. So as I'd mentioned, getting back to best practices and models, about 80% of the career reentry programs are returnships. The other 20% are direct hires. And when I talk about direct hires, those are, you are hiring a relauncher, you have a headcount, you're hiring them full-time, full-on benefits. They are a part of your company from day one. And with the returnships, both of them have customized this programming, this sort of soft landing. With respect to the returnship, as I'd mentioned before, it's a paid opportunity. It's typically anywhere from 12 to 24 weeks long, and decisions to hire are made at the end. The onboarding, you've got the mentoring, you've got that cohort that I talked about, you've got the lunch and learns, the speakers, the guest speakers, and relevant topics like networking, introductions to the employee resource groups, executive presence might be a topic. So over time, though, we have seen a shift from the returnship, like a pilot will start and they'll understand the value. You've got that buy-in secured, and it can get transferred over to or transition into the direct hire. And then going from this sort of defined cohort to a more loose cohort where you have relaunchers starting at different times, sort of a rolling admission format. For that pilot program, though, as I'd mentioned earlier, having it a small program is really important. So you can kind of work out any challenges, sort of doing this iterative process of improving, right? Making sure that the relaunchers are having a successful experience. Your hiring managers are 100% committed. Your day-to-day managers are 100% committed. You may launch this within one line of business. It could be across different lines of business. However, the most important thing is to make sure that you have those day-to-day managers and hiring managers dialed in, and the team members understand this is a professional that they're working with that has had prior work experience. They're not interns. Just wanted to point out, during those staggering admission times, we actually have at iRelaunch, we've created e-learning tracks, and that is essentially a way to address sort of these off-cycle relaunchers. Globalization of the programs is another is a trend that we're seeing in this reentry space. So just wanted to point out that we've actually expanded our team. So we see companies that perhaps start in North America, or maybe they start overseas and then they come over, come to North America. Right. However, the program works the same. There's still the customized onboarding that we guide them on, as well as the coaching I talked about the training that we do, as well as an orientation during that first week of the launch. So getting all of that defined cohort together, and we do about a 2-hour orientation, and then we also do coaching with that cohort, midpoint and endpoint. We set them up for their evaluation. We let them know, how to receive feedback, how to give feedback. So yeah, and the models of these returnships, they were initially project-based. So A
Okay.
relauncher would come in, they'd work on a specific project. Either they'd get hired or they didn't. However, they'd still have that project to be able to
Right.
put on their resume.
Right. Right.
And what we've seen though is a transition to a mindset of intent to hire. So yeah, which is really been very profound on the conversion numbers that we have seen. In that, if you can imagine hiring managers and your managers, your recruiters, any stakeholder, I'm bringing in this relauncher and I'm intending to hire them, right?
Okay.
So I am going to go to efforts to make them feel included, right? And the flip side of that for the relauncher is, okay, they have an intent to hire. I feel more of a sense of belonging, right?
Oof.
So I'm not walking on a tightrope, you know, they do want to hire me and I'm going to do everything in my power to get hired here. So, you know, you can see how that would translate into higher conversion rates. So
Absolutely.
it's been a really good change for the programs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah, and I need to keep going. I just keep going. I'm so engulfed in what you're saying because it all makes sense, and I feel like you're walking through kind of what I just felt the last couple of months. So I'm like, yes, validate my feelings, right? That's how I'm feeling right now.
Yeah, no, exactly. I guess what I could add is that with the direct hire program, yes, there's only 20%, but still that is a model that some companies prefer to take. And I just want to underscore that direct hire, yes, they are part of your team. But they still have to have that soft landing. You still want to set them up for success. They still need the guest speakers. They still need the mentor and everything else that we talked about for the returnship. I don't know if you're going to get to that question with respect to, I think there was something regarding hiring process.
Well, I wanted to kind of go in one direction, and you tell me if there's something else you wanted to get in on our last few minutes here. We have about 10 minutes left, and I want to leave 5 minutes for you to share some information on iRelaunch. But I wanted to know why now, Elizabeth? Why hire relaunchers now?
Yeah, no, thank you for coming back to that. So I essentially, we all lived through the pandemic, and that has had a huge impact on these programs. Work has been defined differently. We're working from home, we're working from someplace else. Yes, we're seeing more and more people coming back to in-person or perhaps a hybrid, but the pandemic really had the profound shift in people's mindset that work can get done from, it doesn't have to be in the office. And I can see you shaking your head that, yeah, that definitely resonates with you. So yeah. And I also want to say, with the economy, we're at record low unemployment right now. And while companies are seeing hiring freezes, we've worked with companies that actually have had their programs exempt from the hiring freeze. Yeah. And so some other things that just, we at iRelaunch, we're sort of in this unprecedented period of rapid growth, where we're expanding our team, and we're just seeing ongoing high level of demand for the relauncher talent. I think and this is as a result of sort of this unusual combination of global diversity being at the top of leading employer priority lists, moving from sort of a nice to have to a must have.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Yes.
And again, sort of this prolonged period of record low unemployment and strong labor demand in strong global markets. And then, of course, last but not least, just the success of the programs that we've been working with. They're finding the talent, the success stories that we're seeing. And feel free, I know I'm going to talk about iRelaunch, but take a look at our website and read our success stories. It's all there. And we'll just essentially, have you get closer to, the experiences that these relaunchers have gone through on their journey.
Yes, I absolutely love it. And I love the response to this question, right? The pandemic changed, it shifted the way we see work. I will share, I personally was like, I'm not going back. I'm not going back there, right? If I can get it done from here, and we learned that. And it kind of speaks to what you talked about earlier, Elizabeth. Put this stuff in the details. That landing page has to be your go-to, because I
Yeah.
personally was looking for remote. It had to be remote. I had to have some flexibility, and I needed that
Right.
in a
Yeah.
way that I didn't know I needed before. I'll say
Right.
I absolutely love it. I think we've ran through. Were there any last minute things you wanted to share with our audience today concerning this topic and this beautiful understanding of the relauncher and relauncher programs?
I would be welcome to, if anybody wants to shoot me an email, please do so. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I think I've hit a lot of the high points. I would love to take the opportunity to talk about, because I know one of the questions was, and we already addressed it, was, how do you reach this talent? And
Mhm.
at iRelaunch, yes, we work with employers. We set up these programs. We've been doing this for 15 years. Our co-founder and CEO, Carol Fishman Cohen, is a relauncher herself, and she's essentially been at the forefront, sort of that of the thinking around and defining this space. She's done a number of TED Talks. She's done a TED Talk that has over 3.5 million views, and it's been translated into like 15 different languages. She is a contributor
Wow.
to the Harvard Business Review, and one of her most recent articles was about return to work programs come of age. And she's hosted over 255 podcasts for both employers and for relaunchers. So yes,
Right.
we work with employers, and then we also support the relaunchers. So, we connect them, we bring them together, and we enable the relauncher the opportunity to really thrive at these companies. So this community of over, I think I pointed out, 100,000 relaunchers, we reach out to them with our return to work report, through our podcasts, through our conferences, which I've talked to. We have an annual employer summit, which you'll see on my the background here. We have one coming up in March, where we talk about how programs have gone through an evolution. There's a number of panelists that will be talking about their changes of the long-term programs. We've got a DEI roundtable of employers coming in to talk about challenges and successes. We also have community groups such as Facebook and LinkedIn. The Facebook has over 11,000 members. And getting back, Michon, to your question about feeling as though you're not alone. So our Facebook, our Return to Work Facebook community, there are alumni who have relaunched, who provide advice and encouragement to relaunchers who are just at the beginning of their process.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, and we have a number of advisors on our board who will step in as moderators, right? Coaches. So there's a lot of value and support for that community in our LinkedIn as well as our Facebook communities.
This is absolutely amazing. And I'm so excited that I got to be on this chat with you today. And I know I just want to share, if you're in the and if you're not in the chat and seeing all of these different links that are being dropped, please take these last few moments before we end our conversation today to grab those links and check out all of this amazing information from iRelaunch. And it's coming from Shannon in the chat right now, and she's just been flooding it with info and knowledge. And I'm so excited to be able to go and click on some of these links here in a bit and check out what you all are doing. I want to give you one last moment, any last minute. We're out the door in 2 minutes here, Elizabeth. And I think I've personally been impacted. I want to give people a chance in the chat too, to just any last minute things, thoughts, feelings. How are you walking away from this space? Give me one word. And Elizabeth, same to you. Please close us out with some beautiful thoughts for our HR people and everyone on the line today.
I'll just say real quickly, it's a great opportunity to, yes, bring in this talent pool, but also for you all, as you know, leaders to sort of have the opportunity to step up in your own personal development, your professional development, excuse me, in bringing a program like this to your leadership, right? Work with HR, talent acquisition, DEI. I know personally that really it's a very visual, a very visible program. And so it's an opportunity for you and your growth at your company. So I just kind of wanted to leave that with you for sort of on a personal level.
That is awesome and amazing. Listen, I had an amazing time with you today, Elizabeth. I learned so much. I learned one hashtag talk with authority and language in the landing, hashtag language in the landing. And lastly, hashtag I am a relauncher. And I'm so excited to know that I'm not alone. There's other people out here who are going and approaching life in the same way that I kind of thought about it. So, and so I'm just excited. I hope everyone on the line had a blast, learned some great information. Please, please, please use the links, grab them, check them out, and hook up with iRelaunch. And of course, from us at Power to Fly to you, thank you for being a part of this chat and learn today. Join us for our next one. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much. Take care.
Bye.
Absolutely. Thank you.